Chris Landry, every Monday, 4 to 4:30. We will be moving the time after this week. We'll probably give it one more week, and then we'll move Chris to the 5 o'clock hour just because of schedule. Try to help him out with that. He is on your radio, LandryFootball.com, Landry Football on X. Chris, happy 4th of July week, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, Jacob. How you doing?
Oh, we're doing well. Doing well. It is officially day one, Texas, Oklahoma in the Southeastern Conference. And, Chris, I'll ask you, like I asked David Murray with Gene's Page, who has covered Mississippi State for about 3 or 4 decades now. Long time he's been covering the Bulldogs. 1991, we had the SEC expansion, or 92. That was your South Carolina, Arkansas expansion, kind of the pop-off there. And then you had the advent of the East-West, and then the SEC championship game by Roy Kramer. Then you go to 2012. You have Texas A&M, Missouri, and now Texas, Oklahoma. In the grand scheme of things, how big of a day is this for the Southeastern Conference, and does it trump the other 2 expansion days in your mind?
Absolutely it does. With all due respect to A&M, Missouri, Arkansas, South Carolina, Texas, and Oklahoma's brand is huge, a different level big. I think this is a huge day. I mean, it is. Plus, it brings back Texas and Texas A&M, where they're going to have that rivalry again. Texas and Arkansas, which is big back in the day, and they've continued to play, but now it's a rivalry game. I those reasons in and of itself make it huge. And Oklahoma, Oklahoma, if you're talking about the greatest football programs of all time, Oklahoma's on the short list. If you look at going back to Bud Wilkinson, the championships, the All-Americans, the Heismans, I think it's huge. I think it's 2 humongous brands that's coming into this league, which I really can't say that about the other 4. I think they were good. These are needle movers big time.
Chris Landry on your radio, Monday edition of the program. Of course, Landry Football is the site, LandryFootball.com, and of course, Landry Football on X. Chris, I want to ask you about a couple of coaches as, SEC Media Days, and of course, we'll talk with you as that gets here, but that we haven't really talked maybe a whole lot about. One, I want to go to Josh Heupel first at Tennessee and what he has been able to do. Obviously, 2 years ago, really, really big year. And then, of course, last year, took a little bit of a step back. Now with Nico at quarterback, what is your expectations for Tennessee this year? And then when you look at Nico, how good of a quarterback he could be?
I think the expectations are going to be high, and it's going to be tied to Nico. I think there's a lot of excitement out of the bowl game that, he's going to bring this offense to a different level. Here's the thing about Josh's teams. They're always going to be built towards the offense. The defense is going to need to be fast. They're going to have to create turnovers. They're going to have to create sacks. They're going to have to get extra possessions for the offense because that's what they're going to do. Tennessee runs the football. They like to run it, but they run it at a fast pace. So it's going to always put the defense at a disadvantage. So I think that limits them. I think that it can be good, at times really good, but I'm going to fall short of saying they're championship level good until their pace of play can slow down to augment that defense. And I don't think that's what Josh wants to do.
There's a lot of teams we can talk about that now, right? When we start talking about pace of play versus, defensive coordinators and the way they call them. I know we talked about this with you before, but that's kind of going to be an issue. We'll see what happens with Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State and the way he likes to run his offense versus his defensive coordinator. You look at Oregon. All of these teams that like to run high tempo. I would dare say I haven't looked at it probably like you have for sure, but just from schematics and the way they run plays, the really good ones know how to make that balance so they're not gassing their defense, don't they?
Absolutely, and I think that you've got to be able to do it. Look, when you have a 14-point lead late in the third quarter, you should be able to run the football, control the line of scrimmage, and the game is in hand if you just don't screw it up. But if you're running a type of offense like Tennessee, you're going to give the opposition 4 more possessions, and with a tired defense, it's like, well, we got to score 14 more points. And I think that becomes difficult to replicate week in and week out. Against a lot of teams, you can do that. But, we've not had a team win a title doing it just that way. And I think you can win it. I don't think you can do it consistently. Now, I think Oregon with Dan Lanning is putting more focus on the defense and running it and not being as fast. So, yeah, I'm monitoring it and seeing there are different ways to do it. But I think you win by scoring points and using tempo. You score points by doing that. But I think you win by putting the game away with a strong running game, eating some clock, and playing to the strength of your defense.
Let me ask you about Mike Elko. I know we've talked with you about him before, but just as this year, Texas A&M. This has been such a weird year for Texas A&M all the way around, from Schlossnagle in baseball last week going to Texas to losing their athletics director to Ohio State. I saw somebody else is stepping down today. Change at the guard in football with Elko. I mean, there's a lot of change going on. What are we getting with Mike Elko? I said we as in like fans, the SEC, what we see. And then what are the expectations for him in year one?
Well, I think what you're going to get is, I think what happened, and often this takes place when you have a coaching change, you get the opposite of what you had because what you had wasn't working. Well, what's the latter stages of Jimbo at A&M was about recruiting, getting star name guys, NIL guys, and we said it at the time, that's great, but you get guys coming for money, they're going to leave for money, and they're not going to buy into the program. You got to get guys to buy into the program, and then the money is there as well. With Mike Elko, they're going back to guys that are built towards wanting to be an Aggie, wanting to fight, be there for the right reason. And then, they've got NIL money that can spend with anybody. But trying to get the right mixture of guys that are tough, that wants to be an Aggie, that's what he's going to try to bring. Now, what is that going to translate to wins this year? I don't know. I think we're going to have a different look because without East and West, we've talked about this in the Big Ten, and certainly we've talked about it in the SEC. The path becomes more difficult because you got to go through everybody in the field, not just half the field and then get your shot. So I think the expectations are going to be, moderately high, but I think if this team shows some toughness, I think they'll be happy with at least the first year direction.
Before we go to break, let's get one more in here. I want to ask you, about, and I know we've talked to you about Mark Stoops and where that program is. Brian Kelly down at LSU, have they done, at least on paper, the necessary things as far as replacement of defensive staff, coaches offensively, you would think that they're going to be pretty good. There's a lot of playmakers there. A lot of people are really high on the young quarterback there. But defensively, and I've been joking, but not. I've told everybody, take the over in this USC LSU game right out the gate. Still don't know if either team can play defense.
Yeah, I think the defensive staff questions have been answered. Bo Davis, Corey Raymond, Blake Baker, I think gives them, an improvement in the defensive staff. Still think that they're short on numbers on the defensive line and in the secondary, which is hardly ever. It's never the case at LSU, but it is the case now. So depth is always a concern, and I think that makes them fall a little short. And here's the concern I would have. I think the offense will be good, but Jaden Daniels in that offense was ridiculously good last year. And, they're probably 6-6 without him. Now, I think they'll be good on offense, but will they be so dynamic that they can outscore you and win like they did last year? Or are they going to get better defense to augment that? They're going to have to play better defense because they can't win strictly on offense and win as many games as they did last year.